You know, there are some really, really good builders out there, but I'm the best. I'm the best of all. No, no, no. You know, sometimes when I build something, I will think I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I'll build something sometimes and look at it and think, I can't do better than this. This is the best thing I've ever built, and I can't do better. But it's always so refreshing to see somebody do something way better than you. Like, it's humbling, you know, but it's also exciting because if you're just at the top, you got nowhere else to go. So it's boring. But when you find other people that are way better than you, it gives you something to strive for, you know? I'm actually taking part, I believe, I'm pretty sure this is happening. I'm taking part in my first, like, build competition with the bakery server this weekend. Gotta sleep soon. So he doesn't know this, I don't think, but Snarple is a builder on the bakery server, and he's one of my favorite builders ever. One of the best, like, the best at using color in Minecraft ever. But he reached out and asked me to be part of his team, his build team for this event. So I'm very excited for that. But those guys on there are so much better than me. So like, oh man, I really got to step up my game. I'm so looking forward to it, and I'm so looking forward to learning during that experience. I've never built in a team before. I plan on being a disruption in the locker room. You know, this world is getting super old, and it's been around for a long time, and I will also admit another thing to you. Here it is, just me with all my faults and failures. I have no idea what I'm going to do with any of this stuff. I have no idea. It's been so random, so random and all over the place. And I'm finally now starting to understand and put the pieces together of how I want this to look. And today's build is going to be kind of a nice lesson in that. So I often work on this super small scale of just like making a small area look pretty, like take a 10 by 10 or a 20 by 20 and just hyper focus on that area and make it pretty. But that's totally different from how it looks from far away. So with the city over here, I'm working on all these super small areas, but I'm not wrapping my head around what the distant visual should be on that thing. The same thing with what we're going to build today. I've got the distant figured out for this build, but the super close, not quite yet. But for this land, I think I'm starting to understand. Here's another example of not knowing what I want to do. I'm understanding kind of how I want this all to flow, and like I need to really plan on a much larger scale. Like, do I want all the roofs to be black? Or I want them to be different colors? Or there's big decisions like that I have to decide, which I'm finally starting to understand. So much material, more stone than anyone could ever breathe or believe of, okay? I've got a lot of materials here, and this build today, as you can see, is going to be very gray. Here's dirt and stuff for the landscaping. It took me a long time. I thought I had a lot of materials in this world. I don't got a lot of materials, especially after this. I'm broke. I'm out of everything. I went through my andesite, all my andesite, and then some just for these walls. So yeah, I'm in trouble with supplies, but this build will be worth it. I'm certain of that. It's going to be very gray, similar to on Hermitcraft, the courthouse. Kind of in that grayscale style, but this build that I'm going to build today, I've actually been working on it for a year. I really wanted to challenge myself with a lot of things, with shape, with color, and so it's a circle It's a circle building with arched windows all the way around it, which it was so difficult. I'm talking about what it's going to be, but now you guys probably want to see it. So let's start with the terrain. We got to get the terrain underneath this building worked out, and I'm still trying to find my way with terrain stuff. I'm getting there, finding things that I like looking at this terrain, obviously on this backside, not good, but from the front, I'm fairly happy with it. But I'm still experimenting a lot, experimenting again with what we're going to do today. So I'm sure some of you can tell that Bdubs is on a little bit of a journey with his microphone settings. This journey comes with a story of embarrassment and a lesson. So I've been messing with my mic settings, and I sent a clip to my brother to have him review because he has a really good ear. And he pointed out something that I've missed for years, that there's quite a bit of echo in my voice. You might not be able to hear it, but if it's loud enough or you got headphones on, there's echo. So I found a DIY sound panels video. This guy shows how to make sound panels for really cheap. So I was like, I can do sound panels in my room for under $100 probably. So I went to the hardware store, bought all the material and insulation and stuff that I needed. And budget was good, still under $100, and then I needed to buy fabric. So I walk into Joann's Fabrics, which is a fabric store here, and I pick out the fabrics that I want. And I'm looking, and the roll is like 8 yards, which is a little more than what I needed. Quite a bit more, actually. And it said $9. I thought, holy cow, fabric is awesome. It's so cool looking, and it's super cheap. And so I took it to the register, and the young lady, who could tell I'd never been in a fabric store, said, you need to get a ticket back at the counter. And then it hit me. Actually, it didn't hit me right away. It hit me as I was shamefully walking to the counter in the back, and they started measuring the fabric that I had. I then realized it was $9.99 per yard. So now I have these wonderful sound panels in my room where the material costs like $300. So anyway, if my microphone sounds a little odd to you at first, it might just take some getting used to, or I might need to keep dialing in some settings. But the moral of this story overall is, if you're buying fabric, remember that it's priced by the yard. Remember, it's priced by the yard. Oh, silly Bdubs. Here we are with our terrain that we have created, and I'm pretty happy with it. This is now going to help me, give me a better opportunity to explain more closely what I was talking about from a distance. Oh boy, this view here. Let's just go into the fast flying camera. This view here, that's looking real good. The distant view on this is nice. Primarily from this angle, because this is where we're going to see it from the most. But the up close, let's get closer now, shall we? The up close is a little rougher. It's not terrible. But I think the best way for me to explain this is if we go into the kitchen, and I can show you exactly how I arrived at this sort of shape. So the mod is called Axiom, and it's regular Minecraft most of the time, but when you hit right shift, you go into this menu and you get a bunch of other cool things that are helping me kind of reshape the way I think about building terrains in Minecraft. It's actually opening things up. The ability to zoom way out is super nice. The way I made the terrain we built today is just out of cylinders like this. So you can place a cylinder down and just give it like a slight rotation like that. And it's already starting to, create some cool cliffside shapes. But then it was just a matter of shrinking the size a little bit and then, adding little bits here and there to make it look a little more interesting. There's other little tools like this melt brush and some other things that help kind of smooth, and you can weld. But from this point, once I get a shape that I like, then I start coloring. So this is my primary, and then there's a cool noise painter brush in here. And then I can just kind of paint in textures, and just kind of play with it a little bit, not get too crazy, and just try to dial in like a nice balance. And then from there, I start picking actual Minecraft blocks that I want to be in these places. So I can set 2 blocks as in this pattern right here, and then just paint those on, see how they look. If I like it, then I can say, okay, now I want to cover this up with tuff, and then I can just paint that in there. This is a very rough example of what I was doing, but that's kind of how I was getting the colors that I was getting and the shapes that I was getting on this build. But the step that's not so easy to explain is the by hand. You just see areas, once you do that, you see areas where no build looks great when it's just, done purely by tools, I think. I think every great build needs to have a lot of intricacy. You get in there and you work in by hand and trying to make things look good. And this build, this terrain actually needs more. It needs more by hand work. It's still a little bit on the generated side, but I still think it looks fantastic. And I'm not even sure the reason why I'm not super committing to this is because I think the terrain might be coming up around this at some point in the future, the way I'm kind of envisioning things. So this is almost a little bit temporary. There you can see my cylinders, can't you? Whoop, 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 whoop. But it does simulate how rocks kind of come out of the ground, so I think it's cool. I like it, and it feels Minecrafty a little bit still. But anyway, I think it's time to pop the big. That's a Corrales. I did a Corrales thing to pop the structure on top. I'm excited for that. But before we do that, let's take a quick commercial break. Sometimes a change of location can be a very good thing. Like this daylily, I had it kind of in a shadowy area. This looks shadowy now, but it gets more sun. It might be better for it. But changing location isn't just good for plants. Like for me personally, I've been trying to get my kids to watch Studio Ghibli films to calm them down. Unfortunately, it's not available on Netflix in my area. So I use ExpressVPN to change my location to the UK, and then several of the Studio Ghibli films become available. Additionally, ExpressVPN helps me protect my data from internet service providers and third parties by rerouting and encrypting my traffic through a secure server. Then they can't log my activity, which they're legally allowed to do, but they also can't sell my data to third parties and data brokers. Check out the link in the description, scan the QR code, or go to expressvpn.com/bdubs to find out how you can get 3 months of ExpressVPN free. I think it was around the time that I made this that I started working on this project, because that's when I started realizing the potential of walls and glass panes together with iron bars. And this, once I kind of figured this out, I was like, man, what could you do with this on a huge, huge scale? Like on a very big scale. So this is kind of the small test version of this. Oh, baby, I'm happy with it. Would you believe, for the first time ever, I'm editing alongside my recording because this build is so big and it's taken so many days, of course. But I've just been, doing bits and then doing some editing and whatnot. And I'm shocked at how this process it was so much I wanted to put into it. That was a 2-minute time lapse build segment. And it felt like I needed like 5 times as much time to show you guys everything I wanted to show you. But I want to just kind of slowly walk towards it here so we can get a sense of the scale of this building. Because not only is it extremely, extremely intricate, but it's very, very large. Those two things combined, when I thought, oh yeah, I'll knock this thing out in a couple days, 2 days or so. So much time. But that's okay. I'm so happy with it. And the process was so fun. I should also clarify something. Earlier in the episode, I realized while I was editing, I said, talking about the bakery server, and then I said, we're going to build something here today. The bakery server, it was confusing the way I said that. The bakery server that's a totally different thing. That's a competition. I was just saying us, viewers and me, gonna build this today. And you guys had nothing to do with it. It was all me. So we're gonna go detail cam here for a little bit and just fly around, and there's some things. So as you can see, I've got kind of a clock on the front window there, like a clock stained glass window. It was the idea. But the difficulty that I was trying to explain, the challenge that this is my shape challenge. Like, build bigger, but then make sure all the shapes are really good. And building circles on circles is very tough. And although they look good, there's a lot of magic in here as far as like lightness and darkness, like dark glass panes. And I got to shriek real quick. From down here, you look up there, and that arch on that angle looks fine. It looks just like the first one in the middle, the flat one. But once you're up close, it's a lot of mess going on here. A lot of things to kind of help, darken this area to accentuate the shadow, lighten these, like specific blocks are lighter for a reason. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. Since that goes back, there's shadow there, so that block has to be lighter. There's just a lot of playing with the light levels of blocks and manipulating the blocks to look a certain way. And, it's such a fun process. There's also a lot of just overall, use of color and stuff like that. So these parts are very bright, and they look like from a distance they stick out more. It forces them out further than these gray blocks in here, even though they're at the same level. So there's a lot of that on these corners, very bright stripe in the corner. So you can, it kind of makes it look a little more round, and you can tell that that's an edge there. There's also like these weird shadows that I was learning about. Like if there was no block here, and you can see it in some instances, if there's no block, there's a really harsh shadow. But if you put walls in there, it removes the shadow, so it all just looks smooth. Look at how that all looks smooth, but still round somehow. So those walls in there kind of make that look a lot smoother. And then just glass panes. Look at these glass panes. It's all kind of messy up close, but then from a distance, it just looks like ridges in the roof going up. And just paying a lot of attention and care to the shape. Like there's some areas, like maybe even this should be something different, because that looks like there's a little bit of a jog there. But just trying my best to get the shapes all looking correct and not super weird and Minecrafty. On the greenhouse, this roof edge, this is a good example of kind of like a Minecrafty attempt at a roof shape, how it's just like you can see the idea, but it's pretty joggy, you know? That's what's, I think, really making this build stand out is the fact that things are very smooth. All the arches and movement, you know, in and out and stuff, it all just flows smoothly. I must be the best builder in the world, right? Certainly. Oh, this is what I brought this door here, because this door, I am assuming, is going to be a problem. It's going to get knocked off a lot. Boy, you know, there's no inside. Yeah. No inside, no interior. I mean, there will be one day, but it's not important. This is purely a backdrop. This arch thing, purely a backdrop. And this is another thing that I'm kind of giving myself a break on. I usually try to give every building some sort of why. And I think that's very important and a very good thing. But this has no why. It's just pretty. The end. That's it. It doesn't need a why. I think it's awesome. And it'll just be a thing in the backdrop. And if we find a purpose for it, or if we want to move into it or something, perfectly fine. That's fine. But I'm really wanting to see some specific angles here, what it looks like. Just seeing it peek through. There's a spot up in the village that I specifically want to check out. Right up here. This is kind of, you know, the main village area that we started in. But yeah. This was also kind of a goal. Is that this arch here frames this, is a picture frame. So ideally, you know, the road maybe here-ish. I think this building, I think I have to remove this. And I've got no problem doing that. I don't care about this stupid thing. You know, nostalgia's not, I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Nostalgia's nice, but this is disgusting. This has got to, you know what I will do? I'm not mad, but I got, there's a tree pretty close. I want to TNT this thing. This is good. We can have a little well-earned fun, you know? Okay, so a couple blocks get, you know, this should be fine. This should be fine. I haven't blown anything up in this world. Let's blow something up. All right? Clear my view! The roof's still in the way. Hey, that's nice, though. Okay, good job. I did a crazy thing. Okay, now we're talking. That's much better. And even as the city grows and expands, you know, I don't necessarily want you to see the whole thing. I want you to just have like a peek of it from there. Maybe a little further back, you know, we'll have a higher view. But the city will go back and kind of cover that up a little bit. Yeah. I got a free bet out of that explosion as well. That's fantastic. But I think at some point I'm going to build like a overlook right here. Maybe build it up a little bit more, but just have an overlook. Because this looks like a really nice vantage point for the city. Maybe even build it up a couple levels. Because this is kind of weird how this goes down. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. But let's take a couple more angles of this. Because it's so weird. I spend so long on something. But then for the video, it's like, you can't show it enough. It's like, oh yeah, there's a little glimpse of it, but then it's like, wait, did I even see it? So I want to give a couple more angles. Every once in a while, we'll see it from this side. My Prismarine farm's out there, and then if I ever come over here for any reason, I think this is actually a pretty sick angle as. Hello? Oh right, this is a pretty nice angle as well. I realize these tough blocks should have been like mud, like darker, because they're supposed to be cracks, but they look like streaks. It's all good. But I think this angle's pretty nice. Like this profile, when you make something, you want to make something memorable, you got to really think about the silhouette. And will the silhouette, if you just saw white in the background and this blacked out, would you be able to recognize what it is? And I think this is a really cool silhouette from this side as well, which is tough. You know, it's tough to try to get something when it's a circle. I guess that makes it a lot easier, but in rectangles, it's a little tougher. The back side, I'm a little nervous to look at this, but hopefully okay. It's okay. You can see, I mean, the terrain especially needs a little bit of love. The building's all good, you know. It was basically to make this was make like a quarter of it and then just rotate it around. But so the building part, you know, you get one part right and all the rest of the sides are going to look okay. The terrain, different story. From this side, cool as well, right? And I know I'm doing a lot of, the word nowadays is, I'm self-glazing. I'm glazing myself. I'm so proud of me. But I'm trying to teach my kids this lesson. Because all the time they're saying, they're always like, they're never proud of themselves when they do something good. I mean, sometimes, you know, but I want them to be more proud of themselves. I'm stammering over my thoughts a little bit. What an idiot. I hate me. No, I'm kidding. I'm trying to reinforce, like, it's good to say good things about yourself and be proud of yourself when you do a good job for you, you know? I joke about the best builder in the world thing. I joke, that's totally a joke, obviously. But this is maybe the best build I've ever done for me. So I think I'm right to be proud of that. And I'm the best builder in the world. Oh, this should be rain all the time in this city if it wasn't so terrible for the clarity on YouTube. But boy, oh boy, rain all the time in here. This is the vibe, isn't it? That's another cool hip word people say now. One last close-up in the rain before we sign off. Oh, yeah. That feels ominous. I know there will be questions. Will there actually be a pathway up to it? I couldn't figure one out. So, not until I figure one out, which might be never. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something today. I hope I inspired you. I love you to death, and we'll see you all in the next episode.